everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy, and I'm headed down the road here in the 15 NX300h, which is the hybrid version of the new Lexus NX, which is their new smallish, medium-ish, sporty crossover. It slots under the RX350. It's kind of an interesting little vehicle in that while it's a hybrid, it's pretty sporty in terms of how it looks and how it handles. If any of you have driven a hybrid, you'll know that most of them really don't handle that well, and the majority of them don't look particularly sporty. Well, this one does. I can't show you the exterior right now because obviously I'm in the car driving, but take a look at the interior. It's very slick, very modern, has an almost aircraft type vibe to it. It has some cool features, including this kind of touchpad, which gives you some tactile feedback. When you move your hand on it, you can see up there my hand is moving the mouse, but when you actually push on it, it kind of pushes back to give you a tactile sense of what you've done. If you look at the gauge cluster here, it looks like an analog cluster, but it's actually LCD. And if you look at the left right now, hopefully you can see this. It's in the hybrid scale of the readout right now, and it shows you charge, eco, and power. But if I adjust the settings to sport, then I get a conventional tachometer. So that's pretty neat. I will laud this vehicle for being very competent in terms of cornering and handling. It's actually a fairly fun to drive car, hybrid or not. It's got good athletic response, steering feel, reasonably high cornering limits. Its chief deficit is that, frankly, it's a little bit doggy. Unlike the regular NX, which has a 235 horsepower turbocharged gas engine, this has a 2.5 liter not turbocharged gas engine and a pair of electric motors and nickel metal hydride battery pack, and the max output of that is about 194 horsepower. And this thing weighs a little over 4,000 pounds. So the result of that is fairly sluggish acceleration for the class and for the price. These cost in the $40,000 range, and it does 0 to 60 in the mid-8s. And for some sense of perspective, that is about the same speed as a Toyota Corolla or other cars in the compact economy car class that cost around $18,000. Also, another thing I'd like to point out to you that this is typical of hybrids. Look at the tachometer. Now, I'm not flooring it. I'm just kind of trying to maintain speed. And the tach is kind of busily spinning along there at about 4,000 RPMs, and the red line is 6. And mind you, I'm not flooring it. And you probably can't hear it because this little camera doesn't have the greatest microphone. But the engine makes a lot of noise when you're trying to keep up with highway speeds. And that, again, is typical of hybrids because typically they're optimized for low-speed, stop-and-go type driving. And when you're out on the highway, the usually somewhat small and somewhat underpowered gas engine is not only running all the time, as opposed to what would be the case if you were in stop-and-go type traffic. Because it doesn't have that much power, it really has to work hard. And the electric battery is feeding juice to the motors to give you a little bit of additional push. So basically, if you had a car that had an adequately powerful engine, let's say, you might be using 60% of the available horsepower, maybe less, probably a lot less, to maintain 70 miles an hour, let's say, and to accelerate to pass a car. With a hybrid, you're really using 80-90% of the available power sometimes just to keep up with traffic on the highway. And that's kind of an issue. It's kind of a problem for a vehicle in this class, arguably, if only because when you spend $40-something thousand for a car, number one, you probably want reasonably peppy performance. But even more importantly than that, perhaps, is that when you buy a luxury car, you tend to not like a noisy powertrain that sounds like it's struggling. So if I were Lexus, I probably would have put a little bit more power into this thing, or gone with a conventional automatic instead of the continuously variable CVT. Now, the other thing that they might have done is to go with diesel power. For whatever reason, the Japanese luxury car manufacturers have yet to offer any diesel power plants in any of their premium vehicles. Not Lexus, not Acura, not Infiniti. They're all gas engine cars, gas powered only, at least in the United States. And it's odd. If you look at what's available from BMW, from Mercedes, and most notably from Audi, they have a wide range of diesel engine offerings right now. And one of this car's competitors is the Audi Q5. Now, what you get with the Q5 is a car that is much quicker than this thing. It has excellent performance. It does 0 to 60. The Q5 does 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds, and that's nearly 3 seconds, 2.5, 2 3/4 seconds faster, and that's a difference you can feel than this. And the fuel economy is, real-world average fuel economy is about the same. I've been averaging about 27 miles per gallon in this thing, average. Now, EPA rates it as capable of 30-something in stop-and-go city type traffic, which is true, probably. But if you're driving as mixed use, and if you mostly do highway or do a lot of highway driving, you're probably going to see high 20s overall, and that's about what the Audi's going to give you. In fact, the Audi might do better because being a diesel, diesels actually get better gas mileage out on the highway than hybrids do. They're optimized for that. They're able to just chuff along at low RPM and maintain highway speeds without struggling, another factor. The only real deficit to buying the Q5 over this is the upfront price difference, which is significant. I think it's about $6,000 or $7,000 price difference. So that kind of weighs in the favor of this Lexus. On the other hand, if you want much better performance, if you want performance that's comparable, or I should say appropriate to a car in that price range, that also gets fantastic fuel economy. You might want to look at the Q5. But for people who like the Lexus, you know, this is slick, the handling is really good, and it has this crossover SUV package. I'm going to try to pan the camera around so you can see the back seat. Now, this is smaller physically on the outside than the RX350, which is one of Lexus' most popular vehicles, but it actually has roughly the same room in the first and the second row, legroom and headroom wise, which is pretty impressive. It really has good room. How did they do that? Well, the magic trick is that the cargo area is kind of small. Doesn't have a lot of room back there, less than most other vehicles in this class. And something else I'd like to point out, when I can pan the camera back, you might be able to see the limited view to the rear, and that's because of that sloped roof and those huge headrests back there that are there courtesy of the government to save my non-existent backseat passengers from whiplash injury in the event that I get rear-ended. But meanwhile, I can't see a whole lot of what's going on behind me. Anyway, I'll get into more of this in the write-up, which should be up on the site, epautos.com, within the next day or so. Also, I'm going to be doing an article, which I'll have up shortly, about a news story I've just read about some hero cops in Oklahoma during the recent storm flooding, who encountered a couple of guys who were trying to get their truck out of the way of raging waters, I guess, on a road that was flooding. And rather than kind of suggest to these guys that maybe they should get out of there, these hero cops demanded that these guys get out of there, and apparently there was an argument, and a scuffle ensued, and these cops ended up shooting one of the men to death, all over something that really they shouldn't have been involved in to begin with. If those men wanted to try to get their truck out of the water, they wanted to risk their own lives, they're grown adults, and it's an example of this out-of-hand, run-amok business of all cops must be obeyed or else, upon pain of summary execution. So anyway, I'll get into that after I've got another cup of coffee in me, and thanks for watching, and we will catch up with you the next time.